Hello, hello. It's so funny that we just saw each other.
Funny.
It is wild, wild times. I can't remember. You've been on the Stories and Songs Refuge before, but not this one before.
Not been on this one. I just been
Yeah.
on the one.
I usually give people a few minutes to come in. It
Okay.
usually gets a little sleepy in the summer.
Yeah, I get the same thing I get so many cancellations and stuff with my therapy and stuff. Um,
Yeah,
summer.
really.
Interesting. Yeah.
What do you think is driving that?
I think people are just like it's a different schedule than the rest of the year. It's nicer outside. I I don't know. I just feel like people are having vacations.
Yeah.
I don't know. Stuff like that. I also like for therapy, I feel like people are in better spirits and maybe not feeling as much of a need for it when it's sunny and they're able to be outside and do
Yeah,
all the beautiful things. Like,
yeah, that makes some sense too. I think it's that. I think what happens to me is I schedule all the usual things, just thinking like, I'm gonna, I'm gonna keep up with that. But then at a certain point, I realize that my mood in summer is about just being fun and light, and other things just are calling to me more.
yeah, there's a lot calling in the summer. Good way to put it. I like that. Yeah,
But I try to keep a lot of my regular meetings and practices pretty much in place because I like having that anchor.
yeah,
Yeah. Otherwise, it just sort of gets like you almost drift away in the summer.
yeah.
Hmm.
That's the side of it too. Yep.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so what I usually do is I've thrown out some questions to people that are really just questions that clients have been asking all month. You probably saw that email. And
Hmm.
then we usually start off by celebrating just what's your win and what's your goal. And again, it just sort of varies as to who's here. The
Yeah.
way that the story catalyst, I'm really trying to reposition it. And I really want to, I think the advantage, it's really group coaching at its heart, but I think the real advantage is that it's mentorship and allyship together. And I call it like mentorship with momentum.
Yeah. I like that.
And you get that in the Mighty Networks. I don't know if you've used that
I
platform.
actually have with a community that I'm involved with, pretty a spiritual community.
Okay, okay, so you're very familiar with it. What's your impression of it?
I mean, I like it. Trying to think how much do I so I'm involved with this community that I do things online with them through the meet that platform, but they're also an hour away. So I go it's a conference center and they have a spiritual community and I love that place. I'm trying to think how much I actually use the Networks. I've used it for they have different groups that they're doing through their program, their organization or whatever. One is called the Creative Field, which is a cool thing. And I've mostly interacted with that, I think.
Okay.
So there's like things where people comment, I'll read, it's kind of like almost like posts of like someone will start a thought and people will comment and follow up on, like what we're going to be focusing on this time. I don't really end up being one of the ones that posts a lot though. I just
Hmm.
kind of have noticed that's what they do. And I also get emails to some of their Zoom meetings, and I kind of will go through that too. So not only the Mighty Networks, but
Okay.
it looks cool. I don't know. I would love
Yeah.
to know more about it. Who knows? Maybe I want to use that for something.
Yeah, you might. And this is useful, I think, to anybody who might listen to the recording afterwards. Because like I said, some people come in live, some people don't come in live. They listen to it later. Summer's kind of sleepy, but a lot of the people who are in this group are people who have an eye toward building a platform. There are a couple of people who already have a contract, a publishing contract, and they're looking at sort of building it up even more before the
Okay.
book comes out. But one of the things I think that people really want to know about is what platforms really can help you facilitate, engagement with your audience.
Yeah.
I ended up going to Mighty Networks myself because I had previously done Facebook groups, and I'm assuming this might be a question that you're asking, but I done Facebook groups that were affiliated, but there were two things that were lacking, and one was, at the time, I mean, Facebook has a few more ways to really filter and moderate
Mhm.
the discussion, but it still is not a perfect animal. And it
Yeah.
doesn't have the way to sort of tie it immediately to monetizing. So this group is 27 a month if you are a client working with me, but it's 47 for people who haven't been working with me. I'll just tell you, most of them are people who've already been working with me because familiarity is everything. And here comes Marie.
Hi.
Hi, Marie.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, did you meet Ellie perhaps on the Stories and Songs Refuge, or have you met?
Um, I
You
have,
look familiar.
yeah, you were there the last,
I was.
yes, yes, I saw
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
there.
Nice to see you again.
Yeah,
Nice to
yeah.
see you
Yeah.
as well.
So I was just explaining a little bit why I use Mighty Networks,
Hmm.
um and we'll get into official stuff in a minute, but Ellie is working on a book proposal much as you did last year.
Hmm.
She's also a KNLA client, so I always send you back to the KNLAC. But we were just talking about building a platform and
Hmm.
Mighty Networks, and um, it's a little bit like Facebook, but without the complications. And if you're thinking about this from a business standpoint and building up your platform, Ellie is specifically in the entrepreneur cohort in
Hmm.
the Hay House universe,
Hmm.
which means she's doing a book, a business, and a brand.
Hmm.
And that means you're kind of looking at things like this. But Mighty Networks, I went with just because it has a way to automatically bring people in to pay to be members. And then if they, decide not to be members anymore, that's a little bit more automatic too. In other words, when I was in Facebook, I was always having to check which one of these are paid, and which one of these are not, and it was just complicated, and there weren't filters for moderating what the group is. And I feel like this is better, but I'm still looking for the best path through. So you are hanging out with somebody who's on a learning curve with this.
Hmm.
Yeah. I do have, and we haven't really gotten this to be as robust as I want it to be, but I have provided space for everybody where you can have more intimate conversations or more pointed and focused conversations with somebody who's more like you. And those are three breakthrough rooms. One is for nonfiction, generally transformational nonfiction. That would be both of you. The other is for narrative memoir and novel, and I put those two things together because a narrative memoir reads like a novel, like a screenplay. And then the third one is agents and allies, and it is really founded on my belief that when you start searching for an agent or just searching for a publisher, maybe unagented, you need allies, you need resources, you need something that's going to cut off the learning curve. And the idea is that the more people we draw into that, the more support you're going to have. And I mean, seriously, it's about just exchanging tips.
Hmm.
Like one of my colleagues just signed with a literary agent. So I start quizzing her, like,
Hmm.
why did this person, why do you think this person take you on? How did you even find that this person was appropriate? She's got a memoir plus. Talk about that in a
Hmm.
minute. But and it's a very sort of hard hitting, almost narrative nonfiction, but it has a lot of memoir pieces to it too. But the agent that she signed with was a children's book agent. She just
Oh,
happened to get a tip that that particular agent was starting to want to get other areas
hmm.
and right time, right place. But those are the kinds of tips that really do help you when you're looking for an agent or a path to publishing. So anyway, let's just go ahead and dive in, and if other people come in, we'll just roll with it. But basically, let's start off by talking about, I like to talk about your wins and then what you would like to have accomplished around your book and maybe around your book and your brand by the end of this summer? So
Mm.
we've got like about 7 more weeks left of summer. So,
You said
oh, and
wins.
because you are just at meeting, go ahead and feel like as you answer my question, you can say where you are, what your book is, give your elevator pitch. Marie's got her elevator pitch pretty well down, so I'm going to let her go first.
Oh, okay. Well, let me give me a moment. I've been writing all morning and
Oh,
in
good for you.
meetings,
I'm
and
so
so,
glad to hear it.
oh, yes, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, I am in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and I am writing, get back to Zoom. I'm writing my book, Intentional Life Matters Reawakening in the Sacred Pause. And basically, what it does is it invites readers to slow down, as I have it over here on the other screen, to slow down and reconnect, right, with themselves and rediscover what matters most. And so basically, my brand is all about living what matters most, and it blends my personal stories uh, um, along with my healing, burnout, and grief, and my mindfulness practices and meeting life exactly where I am. And so that's what it does, and it's a guide for anyone longing to breathe again. Yeah, live with
Mhm.
intention and find their way home to themselves. So
Mm.
that's what my book is about. And oh, and it also introduces the 5 pathways of intentional living. Yes.
Thank you, Marie.
Thank you.
Um,
So my
um,
wins, you want
your
me to talk
bands?
about my wins? My wins are, wow, I've been, so I had my book proposal. I have a book proposal. And within the book proposal, I had summaries of each chapter as well as some sample chapters. Over this past, I don't know, I've been fleshing it out and adding more texture and more sensory pieces to it. And I've just done such a wonderful job on one of the chapters this past week called The Inner Compass. And what I've learned about myself, and I don't know if this is a technique, but I've learned that what feels right for my writing and for my book is that each story, it like comes full circle, and so there's stories within the story. And so for this particular one, the inner compass, I'm talking about. I'm retired military as well. So in this particular one, I'm talking. It's broken down to the departure, when I left the day to go into the military, the arrival, when I went to basic training, and I was a WAC in the Women's Army Corps before the integration, and the lessons I learned there that guide me today. And then I talk about the return, is when I went to the Military Women's Museum, like 24 years later, which is now 26 years ago. And it took my family there, and they were able to see where my husband submitted me into the museum. And so it's all full circle. And so I'm learning my writing rhythm,
Mm,
and it's pretty good. So
that's great. That's
I'm
fantastic.
glad I took the time to do that. And where would I like to be at the end of the summer? Is to have all of the stuff that I'm doing now finished and submitted. So
Mm, to your publisher.
to my publisher, which is Atmosphere Press.
Yes, good. And are you happy with them?
Yes, I am.
Good.
I am. I
I
am
am all
happy with that.
glad to hear that.
Yes.
Okay. Well, one more question for you, Marie, and then I'll swing over to Ellie. Um, why are you the person to write this book?
Wow. Why am I the person? It's because I'm the person to write this book because of my path of discovery, my and I have it somewhere in my book proposal, but I don't have it in front of me. But the reason that I'm the person, my history as, um, how do I put it? Okay, because I'm talking about grief, I'm talking about healing, I'm talking about burnout. And so I'm doing this from a lens of an African American female who has been in the military at a time when it wasn't integrated in terms of men and women. So I can that aspect and the evolution of it. I'm writing it from the lens of a person who awakened on her spiritual path and became an ordained minister and had ministries. I'm writing from a path of a mother, right, whose son chose to leave here. So I am the person to write this, as well as I have worked alongside of other colleagues who, like myself, have been so burnt out. Life has, caring more for other people than and not having time to care for ourselves. I was so burnt out that I was just the body of my life was dehydrated, and I was giving from the instead of giving from to others from the saucer and not from the cup. My cup was cracked, and I almost needed an IV. So I am the person, because now that I walk the path of intentional living, and just briefly, I'll tell you what those are. Spirituality, the path of embodied spirituality. Soul care, the path of the nourished soul. Self care, the path of intentional well being. Self reflection, the path of quiet reflection. And slower living, the path of unhurried grace. And so, as I live those things as my own life philosophy, I am that person. So, I don't know if
Wow,
that answered your question. So,
that's a great answer. I want you to actually, the recording goes out to you. Actually come back to that. And I will just say, I'm going to give everybody who's ever on any of these Story Catalyst collective calls, I'm going to give you permission that if you feel like you really said something really well,
mm-hmm.
and on that day you showed up camera ready with the right background and all the things, which, your background's fine and you look great, um, you can use it as a clip because,
Oh,
but
okay.
you can use it as a clip to promote your book
Oh,
because,
thank you.
I mean, again, or you can use it as a clip to rehearse more,
Mm-hmm.
answering that question so you do an official clip.
Yes,
But
yes.
I'm giving you permission to do that.
Thank
That's
you.
perfectly fine as part of the benefit of being here. So thank you.
Thank you. Ellie, was that meaningful? I mean, what I shared, did you get a sense of me in the book?
Love what you shared. That was very meaningful. I
Thank you.
really resonated with your share. I think we have a lot in common, as I'm sure you
Oh,
will when I'm telling about what I'm doing.
it's how
But
wonderful that we're here together then.
I know,
Yeah,
beautiful.
it's kind of good that it's small this month, actually.
Mhm.
So, yeah. So, Ellie, your wins and where you want to be by the end of this summer.
Well, I mean, I feel like, yeah, when I really drop in with my wins, I feel like since I've started working with you in the past few months, I had this beautiful vision for my book, which is called Soul Echoes, 5 Layers of Return to Deep Soul Resilience. And I had this beautiful vision, but it felt like it was a little sticky. I was trying to work it out. And I'm just thinking about all the layers I feel like I've dropped in to this process and how much more I feel like the soul echoes are coming through more clear because of the process of our work. And I'm really grateful for that. I feel like, even just like I've been paying attention more, which is what it's all about. And that's a win. So like even just this past week, I'm a therapist also, and I'm working with clients around what I'm putting in my book every day. And I had this moment where I was talking with a client and I'm like, yeah, it's about the things that just keep circling around in your life that remind you of the you that you really are, that are important to note, and celebrate. And so, like, I love that those breakthroughs are coming. And then, like, I also just had a breakthrough about, the why this book, why now this week. I was wanting to have more points in that part of my proposal. And I really got clear about the ways that the things that we're separated from that are affecting our ability to connect to our own soul have to do with nature, other people, our sense of purpose and creativity in our work, and then our just disconnection from ourself, our true self, and how important it is to return to those things and like the other side of the coin. So it's kind of like two sides of the coin. One is the pain points we have to work through to get back to where we need to be. And then the other side is the beautiful awe and wonder and soul connection that we can have with nature and our creativity and other people and ourselves. So that feels like a big win just from this week. And like I'm loving uh, how much working with you has helped me on this in this process with getting a proposal together. And then as far as the end of the summer, I mean, I'm really excited because I feel like a couple of different, I feel like so many paths in my life are converging. So my being a creative, a singer, songwriter, and someone who's loved to write poetry for years and all these creative endeavors is really that thread of my being is being woven together with my work as a therapist, which also feels like a super deep soul calling for me. And then I'm also, just the threads of the different parts of this, I see them coming together at the end of the summer. And that is, I hired some marketing help, and I'm going to be launching some new offerings for my business. And I feel like the fact that I'm doing this proposal right now and getting really clear about my messaging and my target audience and all these things is just blending so nicely with what I'm getting ready to do at the end of the summer. I'll be starting creating ads and marketing to reach the right people and the right souls return home. So I love thinking about that coming to pass and having my proposals, all the ones that I have that I can turn in for contests are going to be done by the end of August. So, and then I'll be getting ready to ramp up using a lot of the same material for marketing and other offerings I'm creating that go along with the book. So yeah, it's like a really beautiful thing I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, and so specifically, you're shooting for the Hay House contest for the Writers Workshop on July 29th, and then the Authorpreneur contest sometime in August. What's the date on that one?
Um, Sometime close to the end, but let me see if
Yeah.
I pinpoint when that was. It's due on the 19th of August.
That's what I thought. Well, okay, I just want to kind of tease out two things out of this because I think when you are writing your book or preparing your book to go out into the world, there are two things that you do, and that really seeds the manifestation of that book. And they are live your book. Live into it more deeply. And I have heard both of you talk about that. And I've heard you live it. And because we have worked together, I've seen you hold to it as a principle too. There were times when Marie honestly needed to take a pause from it. And when she took the pause, she came back into it even more renewed. And so I think that, and I think for you, Ellie, what I see is there's just more and more awakenings to the soul echoes in your life. You're just studying this like an anthropologist, or almost like a prophet who's going to bring it down from the mountain or something. But the more you live deeply into it, the more your book is going to feel alive. So that's thing one. Thing two is engagement, engaging with people, just being active in conversation with them, even if it's not on social media yet, even if it's not a Substack newsletter yet, but just more and more conversations in your life are about this thing than there were there before. And you're kind of entering into it with a lot of curiosity and compassion as you go. That was certainly my experience as Boundless was coming out was I lived into it more deeply and I started getting more curious about everybody else's empty nest story. And all kinds of richness flowed out of that. And so I wanted to tease those things out, highlight them a bit, and then kind of let's move into what questions you have this month. And I'll just run through the little list that I sent out and I'll let you guys prioritize it for me. Okay. We'll just, if there's something else that's on the list, you go, oh no, I got the answer to that one. I went this one. I'll start with the one that you say is the most burning question. Um, because I am doing this agents and allies workshop, my first question was about what breaks through in a query letter to an agent. And you guys, you're KNLA people, and you're headed to publication, Marie, and Ellie's shooting for the Hay House contest. So you're probably not the people who would be in this workshop. But if you do know of other people who are ready to look for an agent, that's on July 29th. But that's the question, what makes or breaks a query letter to an agent? And that's probably a question really about hook, if you want to frame that, because that may enter into your marketing materials. Um, super savvy secret to writing a book proposal. That may be territory you know well, just because you've worked with me. The other one was about outlining. I do see a lot of my clients struggle with outlining. They either resist it or embrace it, or they um, quickly develop and then don't deeply develop, that kind of thing. So it's about the happy middle place of doing that and in how to use the outline as you write it. So that's that question. My life is full of distractions and disruptions. What methods and practices can I put into place so that month by month my creative process gets sturdier and sturdier? And finally, why am I so optimistic about the publishing world? So if you want to throw in your questions at the top or one of those questions as the highest priority, we'll start there.
I'm most curious about your optimism there.
Okay, let's go for that. Yeah. I think it's because that okay, here's me being a journalist for a moment, because I'm a trend spotter. And I think I've been at sort of pattern recognition. But one thing is, quite honestly, I don't want to talk about politics, but the midterms are coming, and then a presidential election will happen in 2028. The book industry does follow those trends. Specifically, there's going to be a wave of political books coming out in 2027, right? We know this. But the other thing, though, I think why I always have my eye on that is because anytime there's a presidential election in the United States, there's a tidal shift. And what we decide is the zeitgeist of the culture. There are conversations that we are having now that are just dominant in the culture, like how do we all get along? Would be one of those, right? um, so I think there's nothing we can predict about the 2028 election except for one thing. It'll be different. The whole election is going to be different than we think. And the way that we think about life in our country is going to be different than anything we ever think. And what that means is it creates opportunities for writers who aren't even writing about that at all. Because what's happening, and both of you are really writing things, and many of the people who are on this call are writing things are about the inner transformation. But inner transformations are always resonating against the collective consciousness of the culture. And suddenly, when a culture sort of shifts away from something, it's like the culture says, really, the tidal shift with an election is we kind of go like, yeah, we learned that now. We're ready for something new. We're ready to look at this differently. There are enough of us that have wrestled with the questions of now that we're done with them and the consciousness is higher and we have new, better questions. So if I was going to give you a thing to think about for a book proposal or marketing your book that's already coming out, that taps into the why this book, why now? So the reason I'm optimistic about the book industry as an economy is that the book industry makes a lot of money when there are these title shifts. And it's hungry. Once it doesn't, and it's actually, similar to Hollywood, it doesn't see things coming. Like, you know how Hollywood did not see that the two big box office hits of the summer would be Gen Z movies actually being shown in theaters?
Mm.
Hollywood did not see that coming. The book industry is the same way. They want the same old thing. Something finally pierces through the cultural collective consciousness, and they go, we need a book about that. You
Mm.
know, and it's like the rest of us, we have to see past it. We have to have a vision that's got a more like deep time, you know, and that's why I am optimistic for, especially for authors of transformational books.
Mhm.
The other one is, and Ellie and I talked about this morning in a coaching session, but it's Memoir Plus. And Memoir Plus is something that's more than just your personal story. As most basic level, it's teaching memoir. Because Memoir Plus is a memoir that uses personal story to teach. That's what it
Mhm.
is. But there's other kinds of Memoir Plus, and the agents are just giddy for this right now.
Oh,
And
great.
that means immersion memoir, like taking somebody to a place they've never been, on an experience they've never been on or couldn't ever go on, and immersing yourself for a year or whatever in that place. Um, so some memoirs are, you know, like I took my family to go live on a houseboat for a year. That's an immersion memoir. Okay. Um, so there's also research memoir, and that is sturdy right now in the marketplace. Research memoir is something that's based on not just your personal experience, but research about a topic that you know well, like IFS in Ellie's case. Yeah, would be an example. But the other thing that I see is um, escapes. Romantic books are back. Romantasy was the big genre a couple of years ago when it really started to ex explode, and all kinds of great book deals were happening, including one of my friends got a really nice book deal because she was writing romantasy. She's up in Denver, by the way. But I think that it's not just romantasy, it's actually romance. There's actually much more of an interest in just looking at love. Um, so that might not apply to personally, but the other reason I am optimistic is that there are more publishers than ever. And this is something that it just sort of, in a way, it seems overwhelming and intimidating to think about. One, getting an agent to a big five publisher, because the demands are quite high for that. The demands are that you must have a big platform. One of my authors came back and told me, I signed with an agent, but we're going to hold off on sending it to acquisitions editors right now, um, because he wants me to build up my platform before we do. So I wrote her back. I said, so what's the number he's looking for? It was 100,000. So that's can be very intimidating when you think
Mhm.
about building that up organically. I will also tell you that people get signed when they have usually about 10,000. So don't be intimidated by the 100,000. But that piece of it is very intimidating. At the same time that the ones in the just the tier just below that are becoming more robust and have more ability to punch above their weight than they ever did. And that's because of the digital world. It's because of on-demand publishing. It reduces the risk for the publisher because in the old traditional model, a publisher had to commit to printing, let's just say 20,000 copies of it. And those would actually you'd have to pay money for that to happen, for the editing, the design, the printing, and the distribution to at least get it to the warehouse so that it could then go out to the customer, to the bookstores and the customers. So that meant that you were out some money and you needed to recoup it before you started making money. That was the old world. And then if it sold to those 20,000 copies, you'd go into a second printing. Well, even some of the big five publishers are doing on-demand publishing now. They have contracts with some of these others that you keep seeing about hybrids. You know, they have contracts with the same people that are doing that, and that reduces their risk. But some of these mid-tier publishers are doing the exact same thing. And they are really focusing on developing their distribution networks. That means that there are more of them out there. You're going to get more attention from a smaller publisher or a medium-sized publisher than ever. Um, and then there's, instead of self-publishing, there's the hybrid publishing. And the hybrid publishing basically gets you somebody who is your advocate and your collaborator and helps you just solve problems that you wouldn't exactly know how to solve because you haven't done this 1,000 times. You've done it once. And that model is, I think, well, Marie knows this because she signed with Atmosphere, because that model gives you different royalties. It gives you 90% royalties instead of 15%. And the crossroads that people always sort of face is, a bigger publisher can get you more people buying the book. So 15% of that number might be a nice number. A hybrid publisher is going to give you some proactive publicity, a good one, a reputable one, not passive. Some of them are passive, and those are the ones to watch out for. But if you get one that's doing proactive publicity and you know how to supplement it, then you're getting 90% of the net of that. And Jane Friedman is the person to follow on the business of writing a book. She's on Substack, Friedman, Freieidman, Friedman. She has a blog too. But if the number that of 90% of the number in the hybrid world and 15% of the number in the big five or medium-sized established press, if they sort of approach each other, she actually said there are people who are making more money as hybrid authors than as traditional. We've hit that moment. And so what that means is you don't have to even really be saying, I'm on this fork of the road or I'm on that fork of the road. What you do have to say to yourself is, the field is rich. I'm going to find my way for my book to reach my readers. There's so many more possibilities than ever. And that's probably what I should have led with. And there's more things that you can do that you couldn't ever do before. Okay, I'm ready for another question.
Okay. One of the questions, and thank you for sharing all of that. One of the questions you mentioned was distractions, I think you said, and I'm not so much distracted. I'm focused on writing my book, and so other areas have not. Like I have a Substack. I have a Substack, but I don't have a Substack because I'm not writing there. And so really getting, I want to say balance, but I kind of believe more in equilibrium. Some things are more important at a certain time than other things. And so just finding that way to produce there as well. So I don't know. So it may be in a few more weeks when this is more settled in, and then I can give more time to that. So I don't know. What is your process, or what are your thoughts?
Well, my first thought is that when it comes to something like specifically Substack, and then of course all the social media posts that come out of that, that is probably something you want to cultivate as a habit. And then the way we make things a habit and we're consistent is if we have a system for doing it. James Clear, do you know that book, Atomic Habits?
Yes.
And
It's a great book. I've read it.
yeah, it's great. So systems. So a system around that to be, your goal is, I want to be consistent with Substack. And I do not, okay, add the rest of it. And I do not want it to detract from the creation of my book.
Right.
I don't want to have it draining that, because the most important thing is creating my book. A good rule of thumb is 20% of your time goes to that. 20% of the time that you devote goes toward what we would call marketing, but it's not really marketing. It's actually developing your content, because writing in a short form on Substack is helping you be clearer, faster, and more concise. And it's helping you idealize all the time who that reader is on the other side. And that, back to that question I posed about the book proposal, like what makes a book proposal potent? It's that question. I mentioned the why this book, why now. The other one is it clarifies who your ideal reader is. So does working on Substack clarifies who your ideal reader is. If you could figure out, like, I'm giving this percentage of my time to that so that I am consistent, and you say, and these two things work companionably with each other, then that's the formula for that. But I think you had another question in there.
I
Well,
think I
yeah,
think creating the say creating systems, and I like
yes.
the idea of 20% and still so I can still do write my book. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I know what it was. Also, I feel like that we need to think in terms of seasons as an
Mm-hmm.
author. And seasons are roughly, a quarter of a year, right? Each,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like you could come up with a good system if you decided at the beginning of each season
Mm-hmm.
to tweak the balance of your time and your effort. And there are going to be some times when your primary effort is creating the book.
Mm-hmm.
And there are going to be times when, and I have learned this with Boundless coming out, that there's going to be, it's going to tilt toward the getting the book out into the world part.
Right.
And so I have a book that's about three-quarters finished. And I was doing that while I was leading up to the release of Boundless and really developing my Substack consistently. So it was in there, but it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't taking up the primary space that Boundless took up in the beginning. So I think maybe that would be just the system is just every quarter assess. One of the things I did on the front end of the summer is I said, look, summer's usually a little bit slower in the book coaching. And rather than fret about that, because I'm very good at fretting about things like money, I'm very good at it.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, rather than fret about it, think of this, but think about, okay, I always go back to like the fun and the magic of it. Think about when you were a kid, how you thought about summer.
Yes.
How you thought about summer is I'm going to play. I'm going to be creative. I'm going to be imaginative. I'm going to climb up in the treehouse and with
Mm-hmm.
my sister, and we're going to make up stories and what all the things that you did. I'm just going to join all the kids out in the street and we're going to play Foursquare. And by
Yes.
imagining that there was it seemed endless. It was 3 whole months, and there was going to be a summer party and sprinklers and you know, there was going to be something, right? And think about how you felt about summer then. And if you could think about summer out of that lens now, what would you do with it? And so one of the things I did is I said, "Look, I'm not going to worry. The best clients are going to come, and they
Mm-hmm.
have.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, I'm going to work on my book.
Yeah.
I'm just going to play. I'm going to delight in it. I'm going to maybe bring some of that summer delight and play to it. And it's going to be better because I did. Then in fall, what am I going to do? I'm going to get serious. I can't tell you how it is,
Yes. I like
how it
that.
will be, but I'll just tell you, I'm going to come Labor Day, I'm going to go, okay, so how did that experiment work? And what's the emphasis for the next 3 months? And how does that balance out in time? Because unless you start thinking about pouring it into a time box, it's not really going to happen. And maybe time box is too structured. Maybe it's just make room,
Mm-hmm.
make room. Yeah, yeah. You knew what I was talking about when I said make room. Just make
Yes.
room.
Yes.
Yeah, just and sometimes you have okay. This is one of my favorite quotes from Mad Men. Somebody comes in and Don Draper's, he's got this whole creative art department. They're doing stuff like, throwing flying airplanes at each other, ribbing each other. And it seems like there's never going to be a discussion about how do we do a slogan for this ad company. And he's got a meeting in an hour, or he had the meeting. And then the guys come out and they see these people just playing in the creative department. And he stands up for them and he says, I know my people. And I let them be unproductive until they are productive because they will be productive.
Mm.
And so he understood the whole creative process is just sort
Mhm.
of I didn't say it the way Don Draper did, but I used to quote this in my class all the time, but I kind of got close. But he understood that part of creativity is allowing yourself a little bit of space to be unproductive, or what your evaluating mind would
Mhm.
call unproductive. We know as creatives that it really isn't unproductive. It's just making room for the fun and the magic to come in, or the
Mhm.
soul echoes, if you want to use Ellie's term. but but by making room for that to be there, instead of, as kids, I was I had a free range childhood in so many ways. I didn't know that that's what it was at the time, and now it's such a long lost thing that they've come up with that term.
Mm.
But there was something about having had that that makes me treasure it. And I understand that other people didn't have it, probably even my own children. I will just admit I was raising them in the aughts and the tens, and that was the world that we were in. And we were just arranging play dates and going to soccer games. It was scheduled, it
Mm.
wasn't free range. But if you did have that experience, or if you gave that experience to your own children, you can give it back to yourself.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. So
Yeah.
I'm relishing in the joy of creativity for my book, and so
Yeah.
I'm going to create a portion of that time for Substack and other creativity. So thank you.
Good. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I,
Another
I
one?
I love what you just shared because I don't know if you remember this, but my chapter on creativity is about creativity and playfulness together.
Mm.
Mhm.
Lovely.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
one of the things I've noticed too is that, sometimes it doesn't feel like I'm writing a book, but I am writing a book because I've opened my soul to the universe to show me the things that I need to be shown in my life. And so that you said living the book, I
Yes.
think that's part of what this is. It is too, is it's like, yeah, I don't feel like I'm not sitting at my computer typing away, writing a book.
Mhm.
If I wake up in the night, I have things coming through. When I wake up in the morning, when I'm talking to people, it's like, oh, because I'm just open to it. I'm in a mode of just, I'm
Aha
open to this
moment.
coming through, like it's not like always just on, but I'm on. If
That's
that makes
why that's why I say there's no such thing as writer's block.
Mhm.
It's something that you're telling yourself. If you're block, if it feels blocked, it's because you're blocking it. And what you just described is what it looks like when you don't block it.
Mhm.
It's active. You let it flow through you. Um, for me, because I like to be an organized person, and I do have this strong evaluator mind. Um, I'm always trying to, it's part of just being coaching. I'm always trying to convert it to, you've been in conversations and I go like, oh, you just answered the why this book, why now question, so I'm the evaluator mind. Um, but I like let myself free of that when I just let it flow through and trust that my evaluator mind will do what it needs to do when I sit down to do it.
I love how for myself, how bits and pieces and sentences will flow and come through me. And so then I'll jot them down and then organically find places for them.
Yes.
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 Yeah.
I love that. I love how it shows up like that. Yeah.
Well, it even shows up. Does it show up for you when you're like watching a movie or something like that?
Oh, anytime.
Anytime, anytime.
Anytime, every time.
You know
Yes.
what's really funny is how many times I'm driving and it shows up and then I can't write it down. One day I've shared this with Carolyn that I've been consulting with my 22-year-old daughter who's just got a writer's mind and she's just a very perceptive human. I've been consulting with her about the book too. And so I'm driving and I was coming to pick her up for something and I called her and I'm like, Adele, you have to write this down for me. I'm driving. can't forget this. And so we just laugh because she
Uh-huh.
knows I'm in book mode. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
she wrote it down on some little scraps of cardboard she had, and then she gave them to me when I got her. And then or like you're in the shower or something, you're like, oh my gosh.
Yes, yes. All
But
the good
yeah,
time.
yeah. So I do think, I mean, I do go, I don't ever not have a notebook or I
Mhm.
have my phone for voice memos. I even
Yes.
will voice text things to myself and then at the
Mhm.
end of the week collect things that I texted to myself. Um, Otherwise I'd be calling my daughter. But I think that's just sort of like you let it flow. You
Yes.
just let it flow. And then I think there's a wonderful experience about letting it flow, is just that you see how abundant it is.
Mhm.
It's not even that hard. You ask for it to come and it comes to you.
To me,
Yay.
that works so much better than me trying to write. And so I allow all the ideas to come in, and then I put them where, you know, especially if I'm editing something, and then yes, that goes right there. You know, it's like putting the pieces together.
Yeah,
Yes, and
absolutely.
having the time for that. My husband
Mhm.
and I went to the store yesterday. He was driving, which is wonderful. Thoughts were coming, and I was putting them in the phone where they needed to be. So
Yeah,
it's great.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And I've developed believe in developing a really good retrieval practice.
Mm,
Um, and I think, and again, the question I was asked about what methods and practice can I put into place so that month by month my creative process gets sturdier and sturdier. So
mm,
that's the goal, is that each time you notice something worked, you're going to notice something that could work even a little better.
mm,
Because I am so constantly I'm filling up notebooks. When I get to the end of one, I've kind of already coded it as a roadmap. And I can skip to, like, for instance, the project I'm working on now is HSL. That's the code for it. The name of it is House of Stone and Light. So every time I see an HSL in that journal,
mm,
I know I've got something I can pull up and I can work with. And I
mm,
just completed one of those and worked on that over the weekend. I'm going like,
mm.
that's good. That means I am writing all the time. A lot of people tell themselves, I'm not writing, I'm not writing, because you're just putting in a notebook or a voice memo or something, something. You are, right?
Mhm.
And you're coming up with the gems because they don't just come all in one piece when you sit down. I will now spend 2 hours typing at my computer writing. They come when you're in the grocery store, when your husband's driving you. They come when you're watching a movie. They come at the weirdest times. But if you're
Mhm.
always, collecting most of them,
Yes.
if you're just listening, I think that's gonna just make the abundance just flow right to you. So
So, what
anyway.
is your retrieval practice?
Oh, I literally, yeah, here's the notebook. Oh, this is the new one. So much fun to start a new one. But like, yeah, another one is Dear Grace. That's my other project. So I've got here a little note on Eve, because my character, which is me, is going to talk to Eve in the end. I know that. So
Mm-hmm.
that means that I am really making notes about, because this note will get into the manuscript and then I'll go. Usually when I take it out of the notebook, it goes into a higher evolution. Like I kind of got close to the idea in the notebook when it was raw and real. And
Mm-hmm.
then when it goes into the computer, it's like getting more refined.
Mm-hmm.
Like what I really meant to say. And I think there's something about writing by hand that it is slower to write by hand, but that is actually a good thing because
Mm-hmm.
it means that as you know you're heading to the end of a sentence, but as you're heading to the end of the sentence, you are kind of asking yourself to get clearer. You're going like, what do I really mean by this? Why am I writing this? What am I getting at?
Right.
And there's something about that slows you down enough that you ask the harder questions. And then when I pull it up into the computer, I'm asking those harder questions again. I go like,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I look at it and it's perfectly whole. I go, oh my God. And then sometimes I look at it and go like, oh, I know what I was getting at, but I didn't get it. I didn't get
Mm-hmm.
there. But when you pull it up into the computer, you can get there. And then when you look at it again, the page starts talking back to you. And then you can go, it's not really that. It's more this.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just a peering into the process. And trusting that it feels messy, but it's not. It's just abundant.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. Got time for one more, I think.
I do want to say something about that I found synergistic. You were talking about your notes, and when I when I write, and I don't know if you noticed this when we were on the retreat, it's like I use different color pens.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so a lot of times that I can go through the notebook and say, okay, this was important because
Hmm.
and pull those out.
Right. Yeah. So there's a few more things that do happen in the notebook. Before I start pulling it up into the computer, I actually kind of underline all the good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It may be in a different color of ink, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Or if I see that I sort of started something, I actually put a prompt at the in the most forward level of the notebook, like the next thing I will write, the next page I will write, and I'll put a prompt there saying, like, oh, I sometimes you put place markers, you know, you go, when I have time to really develop this thought, it'll be about this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That kind of thing. But I also use that going back and underlining as a way to remember that make room for it kind of thing to build in reflection. If I'm out on a hike and I've already underlined a couple of things, like for instance, I could ask myself, why do I have Eve in a scene? What is that for?
Mm-hmm.
And how can I do it that isn't in a way that isn't trite? Or as my one of my creative writing professors said, effete. He would always use the word effete. And so sometimes I go, how can I do it in a way that if my professor was here right now, he would not call it a feat. He would call it brilliant and
Mm-hmm.
original. But I sometimes the parts of your life where you just make room for it are really the parts of your life that you're just enjoying like anybody else, like time with your family or time on a hike, But if that is sort of poured into you, um, it may emerge. Just you don't know when it's going to emerge. You just have to be listening.
Yes.
Something this is making me think of something that I learned recently. I got to go to a
Yes.
songwriting workshop for a day.
Cool.
And one of the cool things that I am now is coming through for me that I want to do in my book that I learned at the songwriting because I thought, oh, I'm going to do it for songwriting, but I want to do it for a book too, is this this songwriter that was teaching was like, yeah, if I'm writing a song and I'm in the desert and the stars are out and that was the feeling of what I want to convey in the song, I will write that at the top of the my,
Ah,
my writing. I will
yeah.
put
Yes.
so like if there's an energy that you want to capture with what you're writing, and I want to start doing this now, this is coming through for me while you're talking, that came through. I'm like, oh, those go together. I want to start putting that like, okay, so yeah, when you're talking about the thing with Eve, like, well, what is the climate? What is the environment? What is the essence of that energy? Like if it was a place or if it was a color or I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
So and
Yeah.
I've used a little bit. I haven't. I want to develop my process so much more. So I really appreciate you because I feel like it's kind of a chaotic mess right now as far as like these notes everywhere that are just bleh. But I'm doing chakra stuff in my book, and I thought, oh, if it goes with the chakra, a certain chakra, I'll put it in that color. If it's the root chakra, I'm going to make it red. Or if it's
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that kind of captures the energy of it too, that color. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
love.
yeah. I'll
Yeah.
That's
come.
that's what I'm having fun with right now with my book is adding all of the sensory details in it. You
Yeah.
know, how
Yeah.
things, felt and the energy of it and the smells and the sounds and all of that. Yeah.
Good. That's fantastic. Well, we should probably close out. The next one is, oh, I should have had this at the tip of my tongue. In August, we meet on, look how old-fashioned I am, August 12th. So just write that down. Make sure to join us. You'll get all kinds of reminders and all the things. Um, and quick announcement. We're about to really open the pre-save for Ireland as soon as Karen and I just check a few more things. We will be releasing that. Ireland is June 4th through 9th, 2027. It's in Dingle Peninsula in the west of Ireland. Singers and songwriters, not singers and songwriters, storytellers and songwriters. And what
What's the
else?
dates again?
June 4th through the 9th. We pick you up at Shannon Airport. So there'll be a shuttle that just picks up everybody up. And we take you out to Dingle. We actually will stay the night in Shannon because people will be jet lagged.
Okay.
And then we take the shuttle next day to Dingle. We'll be hanging out in Dingle. We're staying in a place. It's a sweet little hotel. It's right across the street. Well, whole
Mm.
street's lined with pubs, but it's also across the street from St. James Church, which is a place that is a Church of Ireland church. It's about as plain as they get. Catholics do ornate. Church of Ireland, not so much, but it's a place that actually is where they have one of the best trad music nights, concerts 3 nights a week all through the summer. So we're hoping that we get to take our guests to one of those. They have just a great lineup all the time, every time I've ever been. So I know Dingle really well because I have stayed for good lengths of time over the past couple of summers in on Dingle Peninsula. And what else did I want to say? Oh, the pre-save is period. You get a discount. You also pay less of a deposit. The first deposit you make is refundable. And then on August 15th, we come back and we say, okay, um, we'll set you up. You're in. We'll start you off on payments. And then anybody else who signs up after that, they pay a non-refundable deposit. So
Mm.
that's all explained on the website. And those are some of the little details that Karen are working out, but that's the gist of it. We're offering a really good way for people to sort of pre-save, commit, and get in early so you get some of the best discounts. The difference is, let's see, I think it's $300 off what will be advertised after August 15th. Kind of steps up after that, but in the end, you that amount is you're saving $1,000 off the price that people would pay if they signed up in January.
That's what I was going to ask about. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Do you want the actual price for the pre-save? I can just say it.
Oh, sure.
I'm going to call it up because I don't want to speak wrong. Even though I'm the CFO and Karen's the CMO, which means I'm Chief Financial Officer and she's Chief Marketing Officer, which is why she's redoing the website. It's going to look great. Um, Hold on just a second. I'm still scanning down, scrolling down. Yep. It's 3,995 on the pre-save discount
3,900.
and 95. And yeah. And then
That's the
steps up,
pre-save discount?
yeah, and it steps up $300 on August 15th, $300 more November 15th, and after that it's up at 4,995. So it's $1,000 off of what people would pay after November 16th. But probably the takeaway is that it's $300 off what people would pay after August 15th. Yeah.
And is that the discounts for alumni or anything, or is that just the
Yes.
general population 3,995?
Yeah. Yeah. That that is that is the discount for alums, Songtown, and Ellie because she's on this call. I'll just go ahead and say that. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I
Yeah.
really want to come. I don't know if I've told you this yet, Carolyn. I'm
Oh
getting married.
oh my God. Well, I thought maybe that
It
could
might be next
happen.
summer, so I'm like, oh, we might be doing a destination wedding. So I'm like, oh, could I also do that? I don't know.
Oh, okay. Well,
But
that's
yeah,
yeah.
so it's
Oh, that's
exciting.
fantastic.
Do you know where we're doing it the next year?
Yes, we do. Italy. We'll be back in Italy next year in 2028. And that's probably going to hit in the spring of 2028, depending on the dates that we work out. It'll be back at Spinocchia, which it's such a beautiful place that there's just no
Love
greater or,
it. Like no other place in the world. It's my favorite place I've ever been in my life. I love it.
yeah, yeah. And we're doing a little interim one. We're working out the place and dates on this one, but we're doing a small intensive. So it's going to be more like a, long weekend than a week. And that's going to be in Santa Fe in the fall of 2027. So we just haven't nailed down the place yet.
Oh my gosh, man. But Ireland too. Oh my goodness. I'd love to go. I'd love to
I
go to England.
know, I know. Well, Karen's husband is the songwriting instructor, and he is so into the idea of doing a songwriting thing in Ireland. I think he's just wanted to do that for a really long time. And a
Wow.
lot of his clients are in Ireland and the UK and on the European continent, as well as, I mean, he's based in Nashville, as one would expect someone who writes number one country hits to be. But he has a lot of clients over there on the other side of the pond, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, those you'll be the first to know when that officially opens up.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's just a few more things to tweak. Anyway, yes, absolutely. And I know Ireland so well, so that I'm hoping to really inject a lot of myth and magic into it. I
Mm-hmm.
myself will be in Ireland in September. It will be in a different part of Ireland. It'll be in Cork. It's actually a part that I have never been to. I've been to County Kerry, which is right next to County Cork, but I have not been to Cork.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Well, on that note,
It's
be
exciting.
brave, be light, be you, and keep writing. And I'll see you on August 12th.
Okay, I'll see you
Th-
then.
Thanks for being here.
All right.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
so much. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.